Hey guys, so in this video I will not be talking about the 964. This was a bit forgotten, which I'm pretty sad about, but I drove it from time to time and it showed me that it is such a fun car to drive, to be honest. So the only issue that I have right now is I have a small leak on the oil filter. Other than that, I still have some fuel fumes that come out of here somewhere. I don't know where, I don't know how. Everything should be tight and right now can smell fumes. So yeah, other than that, I still love this car. For those of you who don't know, just let me take this down for a second. I own this car for pretty much 10 years now, and it has been converted to a 1.8T. It has some electric recovery seats from US Jetta. I have a Mk2 dashboard, which totally works, and yeah, other than that, the interior is pretty much stock. Then I have some really fancy Digifizz Mini, and they are essentially Mk2 buttons that have been modified to be oil temperature, oil pressure, water temperature and battery voltage. And I have, of course, my boost gauge down here. And since there is no more space under the bonnet, I had to put the battery in the rear. Fire extinguisher, reinforcement bar, and the battery, of course, in this rally type case, which was required by our TUV. I have a very rare reservoir for the washer fluid. Oh, also I have my red fifth lights, which I absolutely love. You have to excuse how dirty this car is, but when this car was not drivable and my Audi daily was at the body shop, this was the only car I could drive, so I had to drive it through the heaviest rains. And yeah, this explains why it looks the way it looks, and unfortunately I didn't have the time to clean it before I put it up there. Now you will see what's under the bonnet. Again, I didn't spare any expenses, and this has all been powder coated by my buddy Jordi. I have an ST suspension, two-way adjustable with camber plates, reinforcement bar. And this engine is based on the Seat Cupra R with the 209 brake horsepower. The engine itself had 55,000 kilometers when I bought it with this 6-gear gearbox. And everything you see here is homologated exactly the way it is. It has been reprogrammed to achieve 245 horsepower with 303 Newton meters of torque. So this is an absolute rocket, trust me. This is also the reason why I had to put on 17-inch wheels with a good tire, so they are not semi-slicks, but this has the perfect amount of grip and still got the looks with a very low car. I don't want to go into too much detail about the engine. You can see all of this in my early videos about the car. I still have a problem with the heater box. I have a leak somewhere between the firewall and the heater box, because you can see on that heat shield, you can see that pink color from the coolant. I can't even remember when I did the engine swap, but I've been driving this car for at least 12,000 kilometers with the engine swap, and I mean, yes, it is dirty, a bit dusty, but this still looks like a pretty clean engine bay, especially considering I have been driving this through the rain. I mean, if I give this a good clean, then this thing will just look new. I'm still amazed by how good this car looks from the inside and from below, because honestly, and that's the main issue, the paint is in a very, very bad condition. I have like a two-tone paint, I don't know if you can tell around here, so there is like a ridge here where it has been taped from one of the owners, and yeah, if you put the right light on it, you will tell that the upper color is different from the bottom one, and I have a lot of dents in it. I have put so much love in this car, so much sweat and tears, and I've done like 95% myself, and I have learned so much on this project throughout the years, and this is the reason why I'm keen enough to work on other brands, because I've literally learned how to work on a car with this car. I don't know, for me that's pretty special. So this is my lifetime project, to be honest, and I'm not sad about it, really not. So yeah, I was showing you that I had a problem with a small oil leak on the oil filter itself, and I was thinking about that sandwich plate which goes to the oil cooler, which I just showed you, that this one was being twisted due to the engine moving back and forth and then like loosening the sandwich plate and letting oil out on the back side of the filter. But I don't think that this was really the case. I saw some oil down this pretty interesting looking adapter. I had to remove both of those sensors. So this is the oil temperature sensor and this is the oil pressure sensor. And on top of it there is the oil pressure switch from the Mk2. At the time I used some Teflon, and that's exactly a mistake I did back then, because you're not supposed to use Teflon with engine oil. But yeah, at the time I wasn't really aware, so this is one of the mistakes I did. Just when I start it up to see whether the oil leak has now disappeared. Starts up right away. Just checking on the front. Runs like an absolute charm. I mean, really, so quiet. Here you can see my dials. So this one's obviously not working for a reason I'm still ignoring. Water temperature, oil temperature, oil pressure. No radio, boost gauge, absolutely mint, and my shifting gear, which I absolutely loved. So this is an OEM shifter, but it has a short shifter kit on the front on top of the gearbox. So again, Mk2 dash, all working, clock, odometer, trip meter, everything's working except for the fuel gauge, which for some reason always thinks it's 1/4 less full than it actually is. So the tank really is never full. Hey guys, so it's literally been a few months, and as you can see I have moved things around since my wife is using the garage to put the car in during the winter. So in the last sequence I was fixing the oil leak of the oil filter housing. I showed you the interior of the car, and this is what I'm trying to work on now. Every time I turn on the heater, the level of the coolant is dropping down. I think it's the heater box which is sitting underneath the interior, so this all has to come out once more. And this is what I'm going to do now, or at least try to. Okay, so even though I'm making good progress, I've now come across some bit of a problem, because I have now almost entirely dismantled the heater box, but I was wondering where all of the mounting points for this part were. Well, one of them is perfectly exposed, but the other ones are covered yet visible, like right there and further down. And yeah, the problem is that I have to cut the heat protection open, but it is very tight, so I can't get my arm between like the intake pipe and my strut brace. So I need to remove either one or the other, and I think it will be easier to remove this one. More progress on the Mk2. I managed to take the heater box out, and I think it was about time to change some of the parts, because as you can see, those holes are normally supposed to be shut, so that if the vents open or close, well, there is no air passing by. But this is a common issue with the Mk2s, because there is always some dirt flying through the vents, like this material here. This is what's supposed to be on there. I still have not found out where the leak exactly was, but you can tell that the right one was pretty wet and the left one is pretty much dry. I'm happy that it is out. It is really a hard job to do. Yeah, I don't remember if I showed it already, but this was the heat protection that I put on the back of the firewall. Those have been completely sucked up with coolant, and so the glue was not sticking to the firewall anymore. I had to take them out, but now I have a problem with heat, so I still have to think about what I'm going to do to get the heat off the firewall. I pumped the coolant out of the reservoir with a small pump, and that worked magic. The rest of the engine has still got coolant in it, and I took out, let's say, 1.5 liters, so yeah, that was a good idea. And now I'm going to clean this up and then replace the heat exchanger. So it's been a while, and I really had a bad time putting everything back together. First of all, I had to put in the interior, which was a real challenge to reroute the cables on better place than it was during my first attempt. The real challenge lays in the engine bay, because I replaced the heat exchanger because I was sure that I had a leak on those two connectors. But as it turns out, I installed all of the interior and then moved to the engine bay. I reconnected the two hoses, and I bought myself this tool in order to pressurize the system and see if there are any leaks. So it is all buttoned down and it is holding pressure just fine.